Well, hello there folks, how are you doing? This is very much take 2 of this video. The weather this morning was absolutely gruesome. It was supposed to be like this. This is what we were promised, but it was thick fog first thing. Filming this now on Saturday, I forget what date it is. It'll tell me on there actually. 10th of April, Saturday the 10th of April. Time is now 4 p.m. So today's video is really my owner review of this bike. We've now done 2,236 miles since I got it in, I think, when did I get it? November, but I can't remember when in November in 2020. I can't believe the weather now, look at it now. It's like, where were you this morning? So, right, okay, let's get into the meat and veg. So, as far as I'm concerned, the power of this engine, and I know it's had some criticism from people saying that it's still not powerful enough. Well, I beg to differ actually. I think it's fine. For what I want it for, the power is absolutely fine. And with this DCT gearbox, the power delivery is, it's just nice, it's smooth, it's linear. So Honda revised this engine for the 2020 version, for this version, so it's got a longer stroke. The bore is the same diameter. That was to do with the size of the engine architecture, so they wanted to keep it as slim as possible so that they could keep the seat nice and narrow. So that meant that it was accessible to more people, like short asses like me. And that works really well. I've read articles from people who've ridden the earlier versions of this Africa Twin, saying that the power on this model, the extra boost in power is very welcome, because it wasn't quite enough with the other one. So the other one was, I think, 94 horsepower, 998 cc's, whereas this is 100.6 bhp and 1088 cc's. And like I say, for me, for what I use it for, you know, I'm going to be touring on it. I won't be doing track days on it. It's more than enough, to be honest. I mean, 100 horsepower in a bike. And I think it produces about 74 foot-pounds of torque. So I always ride this in Sport 2 as well, and after watching Mr. Fish last night, he was talking about each of the sport settings, so 1, 2 and 3, and just going out and having a day on each of those. I think that's a really good idea, just to get to know the bike better, get to know the characteristics, how it performs when it changes gear with the DCT. I think he's got the manual. Did he get the manual? Did you get the manual, Mr. Fish? Or did you get the DCT? Can't remember. Can't remember which one you had in your new Africa Twin. I think it was a DCT actually, wasn't it? So the characteristics on a manual versus a DCT bike are going to be different, aren't they? I really love the DCT. I realise it's a Marmite thing. There's a lot of people just go, oh, I don't want the bike changing gear for me. Change gear at the wrong time. Well, you don't have to have it like that, because you've got your little switches here, so you can go down and change up. Even when it's in your automatic mode, you can still override it with these switches on the left-hand side. This left-hand side cluster, this is one of the things that I was going to sort of have a bit of a criticise about. As a bit negative. It's not bad once you get used to it, but with winter gloves on, I have to say, you do have to spend a lot of time looking for your indicator switch. See, I put this little thing on here as well, this little wind deflector on the screen, because I found that with this screen and with the original screen, actually, the original screen I didn't like at all. It was too high, so the top lip was right in my eye line, really interfered with vision. Very, very distracting, and I didn't want to put it higher because I didn't want to be looking through the screen. I prefer to look over it. So I bought this other screen, this Max screen. This is so much better, but you still do get some high frequency vibration across the top of your crash helmet with this screen. So with that thing, it tends to squeeze the air through the gap at the top, and as it squeezes it, it pushes it upwards as well. It flattens it out, pushes it upwards, takes the turbulence out of it. Even though they are a bit ugly, it does work a treat, and it stops me getting a headache. So the screen was a very definite negative for me. You couldn't get on with that at all. That was the first thing that I changed. I've already touched on this left-hand cluster. For a lot of people, this bike is just laden with tech. It's got so many different things on it to play with, so many different toys. A lot of them, all you need to do really is get them set up, get the bike set up, learn how it works, and then you can rattle through them really quite easily. It's not difficult at all once you get used to it. The one thing that I've struggled with more than anything was the thing I wanted more than anything, and that was the Apple CarPlay. And I just don't use it because it's the user interface with Apple CarPlay is so clunky and crap. Every time I turn it on, I have problems with it. So now I've actually disabled Bluetooth on the bike, and I've disabled Bluetooth on my phone to the bike. So every time I turned the bike on, it asked if I wanted to pair my headset, when it should remember my headset, but it never did. That was every time. And then you spend 5 minutes trying to pair the headset, and if it did pair it, then you'd go to try and connect the phone, and it wouldn't connect the phone either. I mean, what are you playing at, Honda? As far as I see it, it's a bit of a gimmick. It's a sales gimmick, the whole CarPlay thing. It doesn't work properly for some people. Maybe that's partly down to me, but I'm not that tech phobic. I just find it really quite gimmicky, and well, it's a bit shit, to be honest. It should be something where you turn it on and instantly it just gives you a question. Connect headset, yes, no. Answer that. Connect phone, yes, no. Answer that. Do you want CarPlay on? Yes, no. That should be it. But you can't do that. It doesn't go through that process. If anybody's got a simple fix out there as to how to use it and for it to be effective every time you turn the bike on, I'd love to know. Please, could you let me know? Email me, or, you know, just, well, you know, comment on the video. So as far as the tech goes, that's the worst, shittiest thing about it. He's a bit bigger than me, so I'm going to let him go. Cheers, buddy. Look at the size of that thing. So the next thing I wanted to complain about, I suppose, as a negative that I see as a negative, and that is the headlight. The main beam is fine. It's the dip beam that I have the problem with. It's just a bit weak and pathetic. When it went into Honda to have the recall work done on it, I actually asked them if they'd stick it on the alignment machine, which they did, and they said there was nothing wrong with it. If it was in for its MOT, it would pass no trouble. So it's not the alignment, it really is just the headlight that's a bit shit. And you would think, I mean, it looks really bright. It's a lovely bright LED when you look at it. In the drone shots that I just did, it was actually on full beam. But really, the dip beam headlight is really powerful as well to look at. But when you're actually on the road, the pool of light that you get from it is just not that intense. The halogen lights on my Triumph Tiger were so much better. Really, and I mean, you know, considerably better. So I can see why so many people buy the auxiliary fog lights to go on this bike, which is something that I just feel like I'm going to have to be obliged to do now. Not the Honda ones, because they're like 500 quid. So it certainly won't be those, but there's loads more on the market. I think Denali, I think it's Denali brand. They do one, and there's Givy as well, they do one. So the good thing about what I think is the Denali one is that it works with your high beam switch. So most of the time when you're riding, they're on dipped beam with your dipped beam headlight. As soon as you flick your headlight into main beam, they boost up and give you a full beam as well. So I think I'll be heading for a pair of those, which are about 350 quid. Where's this then? It's to Colsterworth. Oh, that's to Melton. So yeah, headlight, bit of a fail again, Honda. Although I've spoken to other people online, they seem to think they're fine and it's my eyesight. It really isn't, guys. So what else do I want to complain about? Well, the lack of main stand. Yes, I know, another bike with a chain and only a side stand. Yeah, we've sold you this bike. We know it was quite expensive, but it's not quite complete. But you can complete it for an extra 200 quid. Which I have done, but I didn't buy it from Honda. I bought it from somewhere else. But it is a Honda genuine part, so they win in the end. Fitting it was a bit of a pig. The actual fit in the frame of it was easy, but trying to get the springs on, oh man. Nearly ate my hands, that did. I'm gonna go this way. So yeah, lack of main stand then. You need it, don't you? Bike with a chain on it. You just need a main stand for chain maintenance. So like I say, I bought that myself and fitted that myself. The other thing about the whole only having a side stand is where the battery is under the seat on the left hand side down here on this side. The bike leans over quite a long way, this Africa Twin. So if you needed to get to your battery, and the tool set is right next to the battery as well. So if you needed to get to your tool set or your battery, it's a pig to get to, simply because of the angle of the bike. The second thing is that to get to your tool set, you need a tool to get to it. Because the little panel is held on with an Allen key. I know. Incredible, isn't it? Fortunately, there is one under the seat. I've put mine now in my own personal toolkit, which is in the top box. So with the DCT gearbox then, they ironed out the bike changing gear mid-corner. The old bike used the pre-2020 DCT gearbox. It did have the rather nasty habit of changing gear mid-bend. They've changed, I'm presuming that was a software change. I don't know whether that's transferable onto the earlier models, but this one doesn't do it when you're at speed, which is a good thing, because I'd hate that. It does do it, however, at low speed. So when you're negotiating, especially on mini roundabouts, when you're negotiating roundabouts, and especially on mini roundabouts, but as long as you're aware of it, that it does do that from time to time, when it does happen, you sort of can anticipate it. In fact, I know for a fact that they can't stop it doing that on the older bikes, because the older bikes don't have the 6-axis IMU on it. This bike has 6-axis IMU, which is, for those that don't know, it's inertial measurement unit. So what that does, it sees the bike in 6 different planes. Well, it sees it in less than that, actually, but the computer works out, I think it sees it in 2 or 3 planes, and then the computer works out the rest of them from the geometry based on the actual ones that it's looking at. Yeah, a bit beyond me that. But anyway, what that means is the computer knows where the bike is in space. So it knows how far over you're leaning, so it can adjust traction control and ABS. And I tell you what, it makes this bike so manageable. She's a big old girl, you know, 245 kilos, and you chuck her into these bends and she just deals with it really well. Why did I not know this lane existed? And she is amazing fun on these back lanes. Oh, you know, it's in a bit hot there. And the sound is just immense. I love it. In Sport 2, she does hold on to the gears for a little bit longer. Not as long as in Sport 1. So Sport 1 is, Sport 3. Sport 3 is the one that holds on to the gears for the longest. So that is really the performance gear. I don't think I've got skills to deal with that. So I tend to leave it in Sport 2 all the time, which is enough for me. Again, like I say, I got too hot into that bend back there, as if you needed another demonstration. So yeah, the other thing really is just the weight of it. Like I've just touched on, you know, she's a big old bird to ride. 240 odd kilos, 245 I think. I'm not sure how they measure it either. I'm not sure whether they do it dry, wet, or half filled wet. When you're riding it, you know, like any big bike, you just don't notice the weight of it. I find it a lovely bike to ride, to be honest, and I do find it easier. My Triumph Tiger Sport was, as the name suggests, was a sportier bike, a sports tourer, which was lovely. She was nice to ride, don't get me wrong, but this one's easier to ride. A little bit heavier, about 15 kilos heavier I think, but you know, the Tiger was top heavy, this one's top heavy. On the plus side of things then, oh kiddo, there's a lot that this bike offers. So the mirrors, spot on, absolutely spot on, typical Honda quality, really good, very stable, even though it's a big twin cylinder thumper. They do vibrate from time to time. As you go up through the rev range, you'll hit certain ranges where you do get a little bit of vibes in the mirrors, but you know, big 2-cylinder thumper like this, I don't think you're ever going to be able to stop that from happening. It doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me anyway. The vibes through the bike exactly the same through the foot pegs. I've taken the rubbers out the foot pegs, so I was going to say, so you get probably a few more vibes through the foot pegs, but you get very little, so it's not bad. It's not like bad vibration or anything. It's not something that's going to get on your nerves. So the mirrors tick, very good. The paintwork is just stunning. I love it. I love the colours. Which way now? Go this way. Road seems to want to go this way. But yeah, the colours, it's really deep, it's really lustrous, it looks like it's going to be really hard wearing. Yeah, big tick in the box for the paintwork and the overall build quality of this bike as well. You know, the buttons and the switches, even on this complex switch gear here, the buttons and the switches are really sturdy, they're really tough, and they look like they're going to last for years. So yeah, another thumbs up there. The handling, we've discussed the handling with the 6-axis IMU on it. Like I say, I love the way it handles. It's a big beast, but it handles absolutely bang on, really. Can't fault that either. My rider skill probably lets it down more than anything. Well, I know it does. I have taken it off-road as well, and even off-road, so it's manageable. I've got no off-road skills at all. I think the back lanes video will prove testament to that. I mean, I'm not going to do anything more than a few gravelly lanes, I suppose. The exhaust then, I know that that's the one thing that most people will change first thing on the bike. Any bike that they buy, that'll be the first thing that they change, is the exhaust, the stock exhaust. The stock exhaust on this bike is fitted with a valve to help with gas flow from the engine. So that's all to do with the engine management system. If you change the exhaust on this bike, I can see you running into problems, to be quite frank. Let's have a look up here. Simply because of the valves, or the valve that opens in the exhaust. So that's a thing that changes the exhaust note in the exhaust, I mean. So when you start giving it some stick, it does get noticeably louder because that exhaust valve has opened to let the gas through, obviously. But it doesn't do it at lower speeds. So that all helps with the fueling of the bike and how the engine performs at lower speeds and at lower revs, with less fuel and less air getting into the engine. So if you change the exhaust box on this bike, that is going to change the characteristics of this engine. So you're not going to be able to just change the exhaust silencer. You're also going to have to get the engine remapped, and it's never going to be the same. You know, Honda spend millions and millions of pounds on research and development of their kit that they sell, and then you're going to whack on a old end can because you think it sounds better than this one. I think you've got something wrong with you if you want to do that, to be honest with you. This one sounds absolutely phenomenal. There's no way on earth that I would change this. A because of I love the sound of this. It doesn't look too big, it's not too cumbersome. Any weight saving that you think you're going to get from another end can, what's that going to be? Probably 2 kilos on a 1/4 ton bike. Negligible, not going to make a difference to anything. The only thing that's going to make a difference is the fact that you've just fitted the wrong exhaust to your bike, so your engine isn't going to perform properly. So the overall ease of use of this bike, once you can get used to the electronics, it's absolutely the same as any other bike, really. DCT is a Marmite thing, you know, that's going to be something you decide at the point of purchase, whether you want it or not. Personally, I love it. Don't know where I am. Oh, Burton Lazars, let's go that way. Don't think I've ever been up this lane then. And for this sort of riding, really, the DCT is just brilliant, because I will be using this bike, like I say, for touring. So it's going to be this, you know, same as I've been doing this afternoon. This is exactly what I'm going to be doing when I'm out touring. So going hand in hand with the touring issue and the ease of use of the bike, the next thing is comfort. That thing's made it a hell of a lot different. I've only put that on today. I think that was 20 quid off eBay. So the cost of the bike, well, this is out of the top tech adventure bikes, this is probably one of the cheapest. This and the V-Strom. I think the V-Strom is sort of extra budget end. Then it's probably this one, and then you're looking at, you know, you're looking at the KTM's, the GS, BMW, and the Ducati Multistrada. But they're all so much more expensive than this bike. I think you do get a lot for your money with this bike. I am more than happy with this bike. It does everything I want it to do, like I keep saying. It's comfortable, I get a lot of wind protection from the front end. It's so stable in the corners. You put it into a bend and it just tracks that bend. My Triumph would never do that. It never dealt with the bends that well. So brakes wise, we've got Nissin's front and rear on this. Brakes are really good actually, really good. The front one especially. It's just a single pot caliper on the back. It's not a two-pot caliper. I'm presuming that's because, you know, for off-road work, adventure bike riding, you're not really going to need, you know, a big powerful back brake, are you? Because it's just going to lock up all the time. So braking on the road, the front brake is really strong, really powerful. Obviously with that you get a lot of fork dive. That doesn't really bother me. I'm not bothered about fork dive. I don't know why that's a massive issue to a lot of people. It's just something that you're going to get with softer suspension on a bike like this. Incidentally, I've never altered the suspension on this since I've had it. I find that the suspension is absolutely fine the way it is, so I've never bothered changing it. So what we'll do after we've done this bit, I'll take you on a faster road as well, and I'll show you what she's like on the bigger, faster roads. And as you can imagine, she's absolutely perfect. Really stable, gets up to speed straight away, cruise control. Yeah, it's as you'd expect from a big bike that's sort of built ready for touring, really. So that bit will be a bit boring, and I'm going to do it late on in the video. So right in the middle of Melton Mowbray now. Helmet is lovely, lovely and lush. Cool as you like. Steering lock on this is really big. It's got a really tight turning circle. Clearly I can't demonstrate that at the moment, but you can do a U-turn in on some of the narrowest roads. I don't know how they've done it on such a big bike with a 21-inch front wheel, but it doesn't feel that vague. It's a little bit slow to turn, and like on that lane back there I went a bit too hot into a bend. That was simply because the bike, I'm not dialed into it 100% because I've been off it for over a week. When you're dialed into it, it's not as noticeable, but right from when I first bought this bike, the steering on it, you know, handling through the corners, even with a 21-inch front wheel, it's not as vague as you expect it to be. The handling is really quite good. Obviously it's not as good as if you had a 19-inch front wheel or a 17-inch front wheel. It is still a huge gyroscope on the front of the bike that is going to take a little bit of manhandling, if you like, or woman handling, to get it round the bends. But the bike deals with it really quite well in the way that the geometry's been set up. So I rode the Triumph Tiger, the Rally Pro, last year. Again, that's got a 21-inch front wheel. It's a beautiful bike. I do love it, and I very, very nearly went with that bike. In the end I went with this one simply because it's a bit more powerful, it's got more kit on it. Obviously you pay more for that, but I just preferred this. I think I prefer the sound of this one as well. But going through S-bends on that Tiger, that was quite difficult to pull it back through. You know, if you're going around S's, you go around one side, fine, but then pulling it back to try and get it back through the next bend, it just felt really quite heavy and quite hard to manoeuvre to do that. I suppose it's something you would get used to. The only thing touring wise that I could see being a problem, and that is because of my tender little bottom, this seat could do with a bit more padding in it. I'm not sure whether Honda I think they do make a comfort seat for this bike. So one thing that I did mean to say, actually, I did mean to mention, I'm getting a lot of people telling me that the quality of my videos is a bit rubbish. And that happens in the first few days of uploading a video. I film in 2.7K and then I upload the video to YouTube in 4K, right? So it does take quite a while for the video to upload. Once it's uploaded onto the site and it's available for you guys to watch, it still hasn't finished uploading all of the data. Now, YouTube say that it takes a few hours for all that data to be uploaded. It's more like a few days, up to a week. If you revisit some of my older videos, you'll see that the quality of them is going to be better than this one is. If this has only been on a few days, you'll think the quality is not that good. But believe me, everything is shot on these GoPros in 2.7K and then uploaded in 4K. So I can't get the quality any better. Trying to do everything in 4K, it just slows the whole editing process down because the videos won't play back properly, because there's so much information that the video just won't play properly, and it makes the whole process of editing the video really clunky and difficult. So that's why I do it the way I do. But you know, you can't tell the difference between 2.7K and 4K when it's on YouTube. You really can't. So we're just going to head up this road here. This is the A46 between Leicester and Nottingham. So this is us. I've just set the cruise control. We're at 81 miles an hour. A little bit into illegal territory, but the bike, I wanted to show you, you know, if you were to take this bike on the motorways, this is the sort of speed you're going to be doing realistically. You're not going to be doing 70, are you? So at this speed, the bike is absolutely perfect, you know, and it will gladly sit at this speed all day long. Again, this is what it was designed to do. Munch the miles, cross continents. So that's what she's like riding at speed. But yeah, you definitely need something on this seat. So yeah, on that note then, I'll sign off for today. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Those are my views alone on the 2,000 mile ownership of the Africa Twin, and what I think of it, how I've got on with it. 2,291 miles now. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I will see you next time. The next video will be the FXS that you see after this one, all about the Zero FXS. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers for now. Don't forget to subscribe. That really helps if you subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. I will love you forever if you subscribe. Thanks very much. See you again. Cheerio. Bye.